let's go over some tools. The first tool for passive reconnaissance that I recommend that we're going to look at is recon-ng. Now, recon-ng is one of the most powerful tools for conducting passive reconnaissance using open source intelligence. This is going to be one of the first tools that you want to run when you're doing reconnaissance for like a penetration test, because it's going to let you gather a lot of different information, and you can learn stuff like, IP addresses, how companies name their accounts, like, do they use first initial and then last name? Is it first name dot last name? Stuff like that. You can figure out locations, like where servers are located, where businesses are located. You can actually figure out users, like what users are on the network, and you can combine that with IP addresses or account naming conventions that can actually get usernames. You can also get email addresses because those are typically publicly available. Or if you just know the naming convention and you know the name of the company's domain, you can make a list of email addresses. And you can find passwords because there's plenty of password breach databases online that have been released to the public. And you'll see that a lot of people use passwords. They might have had one of their accounts in the past breached before, and their password has been out there, and they might use that password everywhere else. You never know. So you can get a list of passwords. And then there's just a ton more of information that we can get from recon-ng. So it's a very, very useful and robust tool for conducting passive reconnaissance without even being detected. Okay, so if we actually want to go about installing recon-ng, we're simply just going to run these commands really quick. So you're going to do a git clone on the recon-ng git repository, and we're going to paste it into that folder right there, /op/recon-ng. So it's going to create that recon-ng directory inside of the /op directory, and then that's where it's going to be at. And then if we want to execute it, we're just going to change to that directory, and then we're going to do a /recon-ng, and then we're going to be good to go, and we can check out the user interface. So let's go ahead and try that out. So we're back in our Kali Linux machine, so let's go ahead and run recon-ng. And when you run it, you're going to see this nice little semi picture pop up. The first thing you might want to do is type in help. It's going to give you a list of all the different commands that you can do right now. You can kind of explore and play with these yourself. We're not going to go over all of these. Let's go ahead. The first thing we want to do, look at the bottom where you see it says workspaces. So you can create different workspaces to kind of like logically separate things and have some structure. Like maybe you're looking at two different domains. You might want one workspace for each one, and you can work inside of each one, kind of keep things separated in their own space. We can create one. So workspaces, create, let's say ethical hacking. So now we're inside of the ethical hacking workspace. Now where the power of recon-ng comes from is from all the modules. These modules, we can look at them with the marketplace command. So marketplace search is going to give us a list of all the different modules. So it has links to a lot of different things. You can look for stuff on Twitter, GitHub, Shodan.io, Virus Total, all kinds of different stuff. Bing, Google, all kinds of stuff is on here. So it's very, very powerful tool. You can really gather a lot of information from it. Okay. So one we're going to use right now is called Hacker Target. So we're gonna install that module. So what we can do is marketplace install Hacker Target. So now that module is downloaded, so now we can do modules load Hacker Target, and it's actually going to open up that module and take us into there. So one thing we could do is type in info, and it's just gonna give us info about it. So it uses hackertarget.com API to find host names for our target or for our source. So right now I had it set before for google.com, but if you can do an options list, and it'll show the different things that you can actually set. So right now I have it set to google.com, but if you wanted to change it to something else, you can do options set source, maybe like facebook.com or something, so now the source is set to that. So let's actually go back to google.com just because that's what I wanted to do, keep it nice and neutral. So google.com, so now we have our source set to google.com, so we can actually go ahead and run this, and it's going to gather information for us. So run and hit enter. So now it's finding all kinds of stuff on the internet, IP addresses, host names of different things related to google.com. So it found a total of 501 different hosts. Okay, and these are public hosts, and of course Google has thousands of servers probably. So that's probably what a lot of these are. So you can already see like kind of the power behind this tool, especially if you're working with a very specific domain for a very specific company. So this can be something where if you're on a pen test and you're trying to figure out, maybe there's a server out there that that they're not really monitoring very closely. If you can get a list of all of them, like maybe 10 servers, you can go ahead and look into them and maybe find weaknesses on one, just from this open source intelligence right here. So very, very useful tool. There's also other modules that we can use. So if you wanted to exit out this module, you can just type in back, and we're still inside of the ethical hacking workspace. So another one that we can install is marketplace install. We can install the Google one. So Google _ site _ web. So we're going to install that, and then we're going to load it. So modules, load, Google. Yeah, there we go. You don't have to finish it. You just hit enter, and it'll pretty much auto-complete and go to the right one. So what we can do here, once again, is just type in info. So this harvest host from google.com using the site search operator. If you know some Google hacking, then you know what that means. Pretty much just going to use Google to search the entire web, scrape the web for, the different hosts. And then it's going to, update the host table with whatever results that it finds. We can do an options list again, even though it's right there. So options list, so source. So we can change that if we want. So options, set, source. Let's say we want to do msn.com or something. There we go. Cool. So now we can hit run, and it's going to go on Google or scrape Google for all the different sites linked to MSN. So it's finding like a bunch of different subdomains, all kinds of stuff. So it's finding a lot. Okay. So of course these are gigantic companies. They have thousands and thousands of pages and such. So it's going to fill up that database. So a lot of different things that it's finding. So it's pretty cool. So right here, it actually says it found 20 hosts. So that's pretty neat. So there's a lot of different modules that we can use to find information, like maybe we want to gather a list of hosts. Okay, so another module I want to show you guys is the netcraft module. So we're just going to install that one and then do modules, load netcraft, and then let's do a quick info so we can figure out what it is. So it's pretty much going to harvest hosts from netcraft.com and then updates the host table as well, and we'll look at that shortly. So you can set the source here as well. So let's see, options, set source. Let's say we want to do hackers.com. There we go. Cool. See what we can find from this. Run. There we go. That was actually pretty quick because it was a little bit more specific and probably a much smaller site. So we use netcraft to actually get us some different hosts. So it didn't pull out IP addresses or anything, but it did pull out some different subdomains that maybe we could look at. It could, some of them could have some vulnerabilities. So just different ways that we can gather this open source intelligence and really get a lot of hosts together. So that if we have, free reign to try to hack into a network, the best way to do it is to figure out, what hosts are actually out there. Okay, so there's another one that we can actually use. Let's say we want to gather some email addresses, okay? Or some, just gather some users or something. One that we can use is the Whois PLCs module. So let's do that, and then let's load it. So modules, load Whois, and you just hit enter, and then we can do info. So it's going to search on the internet and harvest POC or point of contact data from Whois queries for a given domain. So let's actually set it equal, just to not put people's personal information out there. Let's see if it can find anything on my domain. So let's do options, set source, anthonytimbers.com. There we go. And then run. And let's see what we can find. No contacts found. Great. They can't find any of my stuff on the internet. That's perfect. So let's try to set the source to Google. Or let's try github.com. There we go. Let's try GitHub. It's all open source, so it's all, it's legal. So we're getting some, some good email addresses here. first and last names, all kinds of different stuff. It's all publicly available information. And something we can use this information for is maybe for some social engineering attempts, sending them a malicious link, stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. Okay, so there's another module I want to show you guys again for looking for some email addresses. So it's marketplace install pgp underscore search. So we can do that, and then we can load the modules. So modules load pgp underscore search, and then we can do an info just to learn a little bit more about it. So it pretty much searches online for email addresses for a domain. So let's go ahead and let's see. The options here are just source again. So options, set source, and this time let's do bing.com. There we go. Cool. Bing.com. So now we can go ahead and run this, and it's gonna gather a lot of information. So it gathered a lot of different this one's probably fake, Johnny Appleseed or Bung Nun. So Bing seems like they're pretty smart. They have like some fake addresses and stuff out there. So what is pretty useful. So there's a couple of different ways that you can actually figure out IP addresses, and for you to plan some attacks and different things like that. Okay, so there's another module I want to make you guys aware of, just because it can be very, very useful when you're actually doing a penetration test out in the real world. It's going to be this hib p underscore paste module. So what this does, it checks all the email accounts in your database that you've gathered and compares it against the have I been pwned site, and it lets you know if their passwords have actually been leaked before. So you can use that information to go actually find those passwords online. I'm not actually going to show this just because of the sensitivity behind it, because it kind of would be me assisting in compromising some people, so I'd rather not do that. But I just wanted you guys to know the capability, because this can be very helpful in the real world, when you're actually doing a penetration test and trying to help a company protect themselves. You can let them know, hey, they've been compromised and I was able to go online really quick and get their password and log into your stuff. So you can just install that, and it's going to tell you right here that it'll likely fail if you don't have the key API key for it installed. So you have to go to the website and actually get the API key, and you will be able to use the keys add command. Like if you do help, you see there's a keys command right here. It lets you put in just different API keys, because some modules require those keys to actually be used, and these are usually the more powerful ones, like this one. Pretty useful. So just keys add, and then you add your API key and you'll be good to go. Okay, so one last module I want you guys to be aware of is the HTML module. So it's going to allow you to actually create a report. So you can go ahead and install it, and what we can do is you can ignore that one right there. So we can do modules load HTML, and then do an info command. It's going to show us the different options, and it just creates an HTML report so you can look at everything that you gathered so far. So we have to set some options here. Those are all required, so we're going to have to give an option for them, or at least for the first two. So let's do options, let's set creator, just put ant. There we go. And options set customer Udemy students. There we go. So now we can actually run this, and it's going to create a report. So it created the report in this location. So we can actually just, if you want to just like cat the report, you can actually go to it in your browser. So I should be able to just copy this. Let's see, let's copy it, and let's put it in our browser and see what happens. So it's actually going to go ahead and load it, and it says, hey, we have 526 hosts here. We found 20 contacts. It'll actually show us the host that we found. It's pretty cool. It's actually organized very well. It has the IP addresses in there. If we add any other information, we'll fill out these other columns as well. And then it has the contacts in here. So we have some names, email addresses, different stuff. These are most likely fake. Some could be real, some could be fake, but whatever. So this is pretty powerful tool. I think it's very useful, especially when you're doing an external penetration test and you're really trying to get in from the outside. Usually anything is fair game.